The story starts with a soft murmur in Goldman Sachs's marble hallways, which has now grown into a loud scream that echoes around Wall Street. Once written off as a speculative cryptocurrency, the most influential investors in the world are now using the term XRP in private conversations. Numerous insider reports claim that the ultra-high net worth clientele of Goldman Sachs, billionaires, family offices, and institutional giants, are transferring their wealth at a pace not witnessed since the financial collapse of 2008. This time, however, there is a scramble into XRP rather than a flight to gold, bonds, or even dollars. And this has led to what some bank employees are referring to as the first ever digital bank run in contemporary banking. Innocently enough, it began with a few customers asking to be exposed to XRP over the counter in a discreet manner without causing any commotion in the open market. However, those brief private requests quickly evolved into urgent memos, late-night meetings, and frantic phone calls. If XRP is at the core of the financial system's transition to blockchain rails, then keeping traditional assets may soon feel like clutching sand in your hands as the tide turns. The flurry behind the scenes descended into near chaos. OTC desks at Goldman Sachs were running low on liquidity, according to internal communications. More quickly than anyone had predicted, the private quantity of XRP that was available for mass purchase was disappearing. According to reports, one CEO called it a digital gold rush, but the gold is nearly gone. Some customers were even willing to pay charges that were 15% to 20% higher than the going rate. Just a safe allocation prior to what insiders refer to as the institutional rollout's second phase. The concern was not that XRP would crash, but rather that after regulatory authorization is obtained and key custodians secure their positions, access may be completely closed off. Why, therefore, is $30,000? Why is that target being circulated by insiders? Well, it all comes down to a little institutional math and supply dynamics. When analysts over at Goldman started modeling XRP as a global liquidity asset, effectively replacing the role of Nostro Vostro accounts and various cross-border settlement systems, the indicated valuation suddenly exploded, with XRP potentially backing trillions in transactional volume. Prices could skyrocket if even a small portion of the global liquidity pool were to settle through its ledger. The calculation creates a very startling image when you add that to the 100 billion tokens that are fixed in supply, the majority of which are already locked or owned. According to one source, $30,000 per XRP isn't simply a meme. It's a mathematical calculation when you take into account the overall settlement demand and velocity. This story really took off among the elite, but the rumor that Ripple had secretly inked agreements with multiple central banks that would formally establish XRP as a global settlement bridge asset was what really started the panic in motion. Although the specifics are still being kept under wraps, sources in the Middle East and Europe indicate that these agreements may be revealed at any moment. That only means one thing to those institutional investors. The window of opportunity is closing. After that public declaration is made, liquidity will disappear, and only central institutions will have over-the-counter access. Always one step ahead, Goldman's clients appear to be leading that event with accuracy. Inside Goldman's private wealth business, the air became charged. Previously composed and strategic meetings become strategic war rooms. Clients were seeking regular updates on their XRP positions. To ensure those mass transactions, traders were working with Ripple's institutional partners in Singapore, Dubai, and London. A seasoned banker admitted, "I've never witnessed anything that resembles a modern bank run." However, with Nostr Durer, everyone is purchasing the same asset, SEER, instead of taking out cash. The item in question is digital, and my name is Zayden Moffat Desir. At the same time, the mainstream financial media began to catch on. CNBC and Bloomberg started carrying subtle segments on, digital liquidity transition. Albeit crucially, they avoided mentioning XRP by name. They presented it as a shift toward tokenized settlement systems. However, insiders were aware that the reports were nearly identical to those of Ripple's trial programs. In order to avoid a retail stampede, it became evident that the institutions were manipulating the story and downplaying XRP's involvement rather than denying it. However, the truth always finds a way to come to light. At least 6 Tier 1 financial institutions, including 3 long-standing Goldman clients, have ties with Ripple, according to documents leaked from the company's institutional division. The picture becomes clear when you combine that with the abrupt increase in XRP trading volumes across OTC desks and dark pools. The financial elites of the world are purposefully, urgently, and quietly shifting their positions. Because they are preoccupied with short-term market noise and price volatility, retail investors are still mostly ignorant. The real game is taking place far above their heads, in secret boardrooms and encrypted chat groups where billion-dollar choices are made, while social media influencers debate whether XRP will touch $2 or $5. As one insider put it plainly, it will be too late by the time they inform the public. And for that reason, this story is so potent. It's not only about XRP. It's also about elite psychology and how insider access, greed, and terror influence the world financial system. It concerns what occurs when gatekeepers begin to lose trust in their own organizations and turn to a decentralized ledger for protection. To safeguard their fortunes, the wealthy resorted to offshore accounts, gold vaults, and Swiss banks for decades. They are now escaping into the unchangeable rails of blockchain and into code, and their lifeboat of choice is XRP. The repercussions are only getting started as whispers become panic, and panic becomes frenzy. According to reports, Goldman Sachs has called urgent talks with authorities to talk about how to handle this internal liquidity crisis. According to some insiders, the Federal Reserve has received a briefing on the ramifications. What happens if the rest of Wall Street follows one of the biggest investment banks in the world in its digital bank run towards a decentralized asset? The next several days will be important. The biggest revaluation event in modern history might occur if the rumors of a Ripple Fed or Ripple IMF announcement are accurate. Many thanks for listening. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. To be the first to know, make sure you have the alerts turned on as well. I can't wait to see you in the next video when I provide new material. Be careful.